boy, they're going after good old 4chan, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. I want to just kind of keep up the pressure when I talk about the world of internet censorship. Now, I talked about this stuff like probably years ago, and the funniest thing about this too is like, it really felt like me and maybe like a few people were kind of screaming into the void. And now, that those laws that I talked about a year ago, now that it's time for those laws to pass and be enacted, suddenly everyone's starting to poop themselves a little bit because the internet's changed so dramatically fast over such a short amount of time. So to give you an idea, ladies and gentlemen, I talked about things like that Epstein list. And it's crazy to think that, people who want this stuff released, all of a sudden, right after all of this, there's other aspects that come into play. I'm not saying that these conspiracies are related, but, the censorship wave has happened so fast. We looked at things like Collective Shout not too long ago. We looked at companies like Visa and MasterCard basically deciding what you and I get to buy on the internet. And then all of a sudden, every single one of these laws, not just from the UK, but the United States, Canada, the EU, every single organization comes in. A week ago, we looked at chat control in the EU. They want to try and diminish the security of your messaging. Your messaging, not the politicians, not the people at the top. So all of a sudden, you have to deal with inferior technology, insecure technology, all because these people want you to think of the children and all that other stupid shit. I don't think anybody at the top cares about the children, okay? I mean, I think we all do. We just also don't want our privacy completely thrown out. So to give you an idea, 4chan was targeted, and even the guys over at 4chan responded. So the 4chaners went and said, okay, through their legal organization, Byron and Storm PC, they said that according to press reports, the Ofcom has issued a provisional notice under that OSA, alleging a contravention by 4chan and indicating an intention to impose a penalty of £20,000 sterling, plus daily penalties thereafter. So they pretty much say, listen, we're a US company. We're incorporated in Delaware. We've got nothing in the UK. But this is how crazy it is. We have laws from other parts of the world where they can impose fines and sanctions on people on the other side of the world. It's crazy shit. This is why I say, like, look, I'm not from the United Kingdom. Why do I care about this law? Because ultimately, in the end, all these laws, when they're passed, just start attacking each other. It's crazy stuff. Now, I was kind of thinking to myself, I'm like, why 4chan of all sites? 4chan isn't even as crazy popular as, as it used to be, right? Like, obviously, if you're somebody my age, if you're somebody like who's watched this channel, I'm sure you guys have definitely browsed some of the craziest stuff on 4chan. For me, I love stuff like, X. I love paranormal. I go on this probably every other night. And the thing about it is that even if you look at things like the reply counts, for instance, like I have it set from like highest to lowest, but some of these things really have just replies on threads of like, 70 people, right? Maximum. There's not many people lurking here. Why is it that, again, one of the biggest governments in the world specifically wants to target things like 4chan? Is it because sites like 4chan possess memes or possess, information or discussions that the government doesn't necessarily find all that interesting? Maybe that's the goddamn case. But a lot of it has to do with, again, the fact that these are places where anybody can post. It's basically a social media. And now, to get access to most social media, honestly, to get access to most internet sites, you're going to have to give people your fucking driver's license, all right? I really feel like these laws, they kind of pushed them in as like, hey, there's a lot of kids, they might come across adult content on the internet. Let's ask for driver's licenses. I have seen more regular websites asking for my ID than I have actually seen the adult websites asking for ID. That's crazy to think about. Now, of course, the only way to fight back, and I don't want to make these videos because, I don't want to be like doom and gloom. Okay, I'm not here to like doom scroll for you. I am here to tell you that there are ways that you can fight back. Government wants to take away your, internet privacy through like taking away things like encryption. Go back to PGP. Send messages in a way where the government isn't going to be decrypting these things or will not spend the resources to decrypt every single message you have. Do you want to share files? You might have to start looking at things like VPNs or things like torrent software. And you might be like, whoa, are you teaching people how to pirate? No, 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 no. Piracy is totally haram. But of course, I use torrent software when I download things like Arch Linux or any project where, it's a hobby project. It's a project made by a small group of people, not big tech. Therefore, they use things like BitTorrent so they can save as much money as they can on server costs and still share files between people, in a way where, again, governments, they have to work a little bit to try and stop this kind of stuff. Not to say that governments can't stop torrent software. They absolutely can. But you have to find ways to make things substantially more difficult for them, or at least annoying. Now, it's crazy to go back to 4chan of the website, right? The United Kingdom is trying to enforce their laws on a company that is owned by a Japanese man at this point, a website service that has its business incorporated in the state of Delaware, and from my understanding, has its servers hosted probably around the world, but I believe mostly in the state of California. And yet, they want to enforce their laws on the fucking Americans, even though it just makes no fucking sense. Now, obviously, when it comes to organizations like Collective Shout, for instance, we're looking at these guys that, initially were bringing the pain to the average gamer, and now they're talking about how, we're at a rise of Gamergate 2.0. They've pulled all these online games from the platforms, like Steam, for instance, or at least had them de-indexed. Like, all of a sudden, games that were mature, not even pornographic in nature, immediately started getting removed because of viral calls or just, again, annoying campaigns to, again, all these like payment processor teams. And of course, the payment processors decide to shut this stuff down. So to go forward into this too, right? Like, obviously, when you look at, again, sites like Collective Shout, the kind of stuff they say makes me almost laugh a little bit. Obviously, they expected some level of backlash, given the fact that they were trying to police the entire internet, police mature content for mature individuals. So, of course, they said they're small team, small but I guess incredibly powerful in terms of convincing payment processors what to do, abuse, harassment, threats of violence by gamers who are angry about losing their rape games. Even though a lot of games that actually ended up getting removed from this were video games like Vile, where they were actually touching upon serious topics. They weren't just all goofy, haha, visual novel like, rape games that they were talking about. So again, they keep bringing up the fact that there's a misogynistic vitriol against them. And honestly, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that there isn't a level of misogynistic vitriol against them too. But they obviously also know that they're on the internet trying to destroy freedoms and take away video games and take away, a paying customer's product. Of course, they're going to get some level of online backlash. That is very much to be expected. But obviously with organizations like this, they always kind of like try turning that around and making themselves the victims, even though they themselves stepped foot into a fucking bear trap and started the wave of internet censorship. Internet censorship really is out of control. But it's not just the censorship that gets me. It's the fact that when it comes to the internet, we now literally rely on some level of surveillance. At least that's where we're headed to in such a short amount of time. It's actually insane. A few days ago when it came to YouTube, right? YouTube just recently launched AI age verification on its platform. And I believe mostly for Americans, this is a thing, but it probably will come all the way out to other countries. Now, the thing about YouTube is, let's say that you're doing YouTube like as your main money-making opportunity. What has happened right now with age verification should slightly worry you. Now, years ago on YouTube, for anybody that doesn't know, there was things like the adpocalypse. So if you were 100% on YouTube, this was your income stream, immediately you went from making a good chunk of money and you just lost a lot of it overnight. So depending on how you structured your YouTube channel, let's say that you had employees, well, you had to start letting people go. Let's assume that, you were living paycheck to paycheck. You probably also had to get something else on the side in order to make this dream of yours actually work. Now, YouTube, it seems, is starting to implement just a little bit more of that. So a few people had started getting these messages. We changed some of your settings. We've updated some settings, including turning off ad personalization, because we're not sure you're over 18. So you could have an over 18 account, and YouTube's AI has now deemed you unfit to be an adult. Maybe you watched too much child-friendly stuff. Maybe you've tripped something on YouTube's AI. AI is not perfect. The fact that we as a society are using AI to basically monitor every single thing that we do on the internet is just bad. Dude, it was literally this year that over 51% of all web traffic just became complete bots. So when we talk about shit like the dead internet theory, there are more synths on this platform, or the internet as a whole, than actual fucking human beings. It's crazy. And there's a good percentage of that that's just bad bot traffic that's taking advantage of the internet in completely negative ways. So to go back to YouTube, this person gets their, the YouTube considers them to be under 18. So according to this user, now all of a sudden on the shorts, they start getting, shorts where people have like shit stuck into their hands, like, almost like, I would say like body, very light body gore. You've got, just tits in your face. It's crazy stuff to see. So even the AI and the recommendations engine isn't truly protecting you from that adult content. Here's another user. This guy's just watching a video, yada, 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 having a good time. They got some Warhammer ads. Now, I imagine Warhammer is usually for adults, or at least like, teens or something. We couldn't verify that you're an adult. We've changed some of your settings. Okay, so YouTube's AI seems to be flagging people. And the thing about it is, obviously, let's just be honest here. So a lot of this is really also bad for YouTube. YouTube has something known as personalized ads, which is where, I guess, a big chunk of the money comes out from. If YouTube can accurately deliver a personalized ad to somebody, they make a magnitude more money per ad than if they just randomly threw ads out of nowhere, right? You ever wonder, like, damn, I Googled, like, butt plugs the other day. All of a sudden, I'm getting fucking butt plug ads. It's because Google and YouTube have such a sophisticated ad engine that, yes, they do cross-site track you. And if you are looking for something here, they'll probably want to advertise it to you on YouTube. And you're probably more likely to click on the ad and maybe purchase the product as if they were just to randomly throw you an ad that you really didn't have interest in. So yes, the AI age verification is actually as bad for the content creator if we're talking about the monetary angles of it, the lack of engagement that they can encounter from somebody whose account features have been so heavily limited, but it's also bad for YouTube because, yeah, if you're not able to have every account gathering data for you because of laws and regulations, yeah, it's gonna be bad for your site's bottom line. So I just want you to understand, I don't even think the guys over at YouTube are necessarily all that excited for it. There's been a lot of content creators that have been trying to do goofy things, like create like random videos where you can put on an autoplay so that they can just straight up basically make your account look as if it's over 18. And there's really no hard and fast rule to this. Nobody really knows how YouTube's AI works other than YouTube, Google, and the guys behind it. So realistically, we're just kind of like hoping that our accounts don't get hit. Now, of course, if your account does get hit, you can just provide a driver's license to the fellows over at YouTube, and hopefully they will just overturn the situation. But from what I understand, YouTube can actually hold onto that ID for 2 years. So according to the guys over at Google, let's say that you give your ID, right? So to establish your YouTube channel's history, you complete ID and video verifications again. So to ensure individuals or groups don't evade our restrictions by creating new accounts, we assess whether you may have repeatedly violated policies or restrict repeal applications. So Google may save your ID or your video and facial recognition data for a period of time. So how long does that data get stored? It gets stored for a maximum of 3 years. Now, according to even Google, I believe they can delete this sooner than before, but the thing is, that's information stored. Now, thankfully, they say we never sell your personal information, and, obviously, I'm gonna have to trust them on that. But, I'm hoping that obviously for, an organization like Google, being as big as they are, I'm hoping that this information can't be hacked by somebody, taken and then sold on the dark web or sold in any data breach out there. Now, obviously, I expect Google to have some good security practices, but no security practice is truly 100% perfect. So you have to be okay when you provide your information to these organizations that they will delete your information down the road. So for instance, here they even say your ID will be deleted from your Google account within 2 years. It's usually deleted in a few months after you've built sufficient channel history, or after 1 year if you haven't used advanced features. So no matter what, your information's gonna at least be here for over a month or two, okay? So you have to be comfortable giving your ID to somebody, and they basically hold on to a record of that for a little bit. Now, obviously, I can imagine some of you guys are probably going to go and say, I don't feel comfortable with that, Muda, but what other options are there? Look, a few days ago, I made a video talking about the internet as a whole. And one of the things that I don't like about the internet right now is that it feels like there's 6 websites that basically people go to. It really feels like a cyberpunkish type of internet. You know, when you play a video game and there's like an internet feature in it and there's like maybe 7 websites you go to max, you know, like, ooh, there's like 7 or 8 different websites. It's like, is that all the people go to in this fictional universe? Is like 7 or 8 websites? How really different is that from the real world, right? Like you go to YouTube for your videos. You probably go to like fucking, I don't know, Facebook, God forbid, to talk with like boomer parents. You probably go to like Twitter to like, you know, shitpost or like doom scroll. You probably go to Reddit for everything that you could have done with a forum from like the early 2000s. So realistically, one of the things that I did was I also reached out to the fellas over at Odyssey. Now, Odyssey, for anybody that doesn't know what it is, this is an alternative tech platform. And I actually used to have a channel on here. And, you know, my channel is gone. My channel, you know, I talked to them, I had my discussions. They had worked with me very quickly, within a span of 24 hours, to bring my channel not just back, to talk to my 28,000 subscribers on this platform, and also quickly synchronize a good chunk of my content. Now, obviously, I am not going to be using, you know, Odyssey as a primary platform, but I want to use it as a mirrored platform for my content. So I actually asked the company for this, and I got in touch with the CEO and COO really quickly. And they told me that they are basically owned by a company. I believe it's like Forward Distribution or something or whatever. And they have apparently 20 years worth of funding to keep this site operating, which is kind of crazy to think about. Now, obviously, after that, they'll probably need more cash infusions. Running a video website like this is definitely expensive, and that's why there's just not many other people on the platform. But the thing is, a site like this is important because I even asked them about age verification. They said, look, we'll hold out as long as we can, but if laws pass and we're an American company, we have to abide by those laws. But for now, they're not going out of their way to invoke an attack on privacy like other websites are doing preemptively. They're just waiting for all the laws to pass, and they're holding out as much as they can. Now, ultimately, it's not just about supporting the alternative tech platform, it's about fighting back against these crazy, vicious anti-privacy laws. So if you're not able to win that, well, the internet dramatically changes in the future. But I do want to hype a site like Odyssey up a little bit because it's the only other platform that I'm on other than YouTube when it comes to my content that I upload. But, you know, I'm not on Rumble or any of these other platforms because it's just way too much to keep track of. I'm not really in here for the money, obviously, either. I'm in here mostly for the love of the game, okay? People can watch my videos, enjoy content over here, and if, God forbid, you know, YouTube considers you to be a child and you have to provide an identification, it's not as if there isn't another repo of content that you can access on my channel. That's kind of the thing that I have over here. Now, even when it came to Odyssey, they said that, you know, just at the end of last year, even YouTube was giving them a lot of like grief over synchronizing content, because I really do think, obviously for YouTube, when they start to see all these other platforms pop up that may be providing in some ways a better experience, it might be better to hamper it as much as you can so people stick to YouTube. And I don't think sites like Odyssey, or I don't think sites like Rumble are going to destroy YouTube. I don't think that's gonna happen. I think YouTube will always be a dominant, you know, number one. But I also want to, you know, bring up the fact that there is alternative platforms. We don't all have to use the same website. And when it comes to things like forced identification, right, you've got situations where obviously if you look closely into even Roblox, like we just talked about Roblox like a few days ago. When you start looking at like their VP of civility and partnerships, you know, they're apparently even working with many of these online safety organizations. When you look at multiple tech companies and you look at the boards of those companies, there are VPs of these companies that apparently want forced identification. It almost feels like the elite and the government are almost working hand in hand to systematically destroy the little bit of privacy that we have. And the thing is, The only way to resist this is obviously if you want to use, alternative, sources, you want to use alternative, media. That's a great way, I guess. There's other sites that are not YouTube, that are not Twitter, that are not Facebook, that are not the, default website everyone goes to that allows you to do similar things. There's also platforms like Tor. So if you have the Brave browser, you can just click these three little lines and go new private window. You don't even need to download the Tor browser, but I highly recommend you do. And you can use it to access social media services or, talk to people, in a way where you at least have anonymity and you don't have to provide your actual identification and put yourself at risk, like a lot of these government and organizations really kind of want you to do. So ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to really talk about it because I feel like fighting back is important. And I feel like these videos that I make are important because at least I can teach you some methods on fighting back. Even if it doesn't seem like much, the tiniest struggle that you can provide is important. It's much like Louis Rossmann and his Clippy campaign right now, where you want these organizations to know that you know what's up. And you slowly but surely, you know how to fight back and resist against this insane level of control that's slowly being enacted over us. So yeah, that's really what I wanted to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it. I'm going to go look at some cult stuff that I want to record. And for anybody that's excited, I'm thinking of a haunted gaming video alongside of deep web stuff this weekend before I fly out to California. But I am out.